Hi, I'm TJ Dorian. This is my Module 14 case study for Internet use violations. What we know, we're in a affluent school district within a large city. It is one of the top schools in the state. Miss Tate is a second-year teacher who is very highly educated. However, within her teaching style, it is becoming problematic for the students. Her classroom is very stressful. Had a lot of parent complaints over the workload as well as just kind of her instruction methods within her classroom. Based on that, the principal, Dr. Smith, has given her different strategies to try to implement to help benefit her as well as the students. However, as of yet, those have been ineffective. Also, with our kind of main situation here, Miss Tate, she received notice of a Facebook page that was very critical of her as well as her teaching style. And within that, there was the quote of, "Who wants Miss Tate to disappear?" And she interpreted that as a threat upon her own well-being. She is then going to contact Dr. Smith on the Sunday night that she got the information of it or was made aware of it. She's going to contact Dr. Smith that night, bring him up to speed, tell her kind of what's happened, and within that, after he's kind of gone through and he's pulling up the information, she's going to bring in the name William Hall. She kind of accuses him, which is one of her students, accuses him of being the perpetrator of the message and bases that on the fact that he is technologically savvy. So the principal is going to go through, he's going to print out hard copies of the comments there, and that's in order to make sure that nothing gets changed later on and the facts remain the facts. And then at the end, the principal is going to mention just kind of a basic plan of what's going to happen on Monday morning, how they're going to get together, and kind of where the process is going to go to find out the truth behind the matter here. So with that being said, what we need to know. First thing, who's involved in the Facebook group? Who are the members? Second, who sent the original warning? What was their reasoning for sending it? Were they worried about Miss Tate? Or were they just, kind of wanting to make sure that she saw the information to maybe hurt her feelings? And number three, who posted the threat? That's going to be kind of one of our top concerns here. Was it a credible and true threat? Number four is really key here. If it is a credible, true threat, legal action is going to need to occur. However, if it is deemed that it is a First Amendment right, that the student is expressing their First Amendment right, and it was not meant to be a threat, if it was meant just kind of saying in jest, if it was meant just as a pure question of who wants her to disappear, who wants her to leave the school, who wants her to go away, then that is going to be an entirely different conversation, an entirely different disciplinary system that we're going to have to go through to proceed with that. And it's really going to be kind of the determining factor within this whole situation. Fifth thing here, this kind of goes towards Miss Tate. Why does she accuse William Hall? Why is he kind of the first thing in her mind when she goes to talk to Dr. Smith about this situation? Number six, what was used to post it? Was it district computer, district laptop? What was the mode or the method to be able to do this? Or was it something that was the student's own cell phone, their own computer, what have you? Because this is going to bring into the district policy, or bring the district policy into this, in determining what steps are going to happen moving forward. And also we're going to need to know the district policy regarding threats to staff, kind of what the different categories are, what the different punishments are that can be associated with that. Now, we have two issues here. Our primary issue is going to be that Miss Tate, she acquired information that was critical of her and her class teaching style, along with what she perceived as a threat to her personal well-being. That's going to be our first and primary issue. Our second thing is going to be Miss Tate's classroom instruction. It seems to be lacking, and she's getting support on that, but she's not taking advantage of it. She's not making that appropriate growth that we're going to need her to show. Now, our plan of action is, first and foremost, contact the district. Hey, I have this issue. This is what's going on. Fill them in. It's probably not, in my district specifically, it's not going to go straight to the superintendent. We have assistant superintendents that go over the elementary, middle, and high schools that we just independently contact. And so that's going to be my first step, letting them know what's going on, and then kind of keeping them abreast, checking in throughout this whole process. Second thing is going to be to contact our SRO, contact law enforcement, just kind of based on what's going on to make sure that everybody's on the same page. If it's something, they need to be a second contact, maybe even the first, just kind of depending on how we go through this, to make sure that safety is going to be our first priority here. Third, we're going to review the information in the printout. We're going to go through, kind of see what was said, what was the whole context of it, and if we need to, we're going to bring in the district technology people to kind of help us gather and then break down that information. If this has already been turned over to law enforcement, our hands are out of it. If it is deemed a credible threat, a true threat, then law enforcement's going to take it over, and they're going to follow through those steps of their investigation, as well as determining if charges will be filed against the student or whatever. Now, if it's not taken by law enforcement, if it has been not deemed a true threat, then we're going to get into kind of some murky waters, because we're going to be dealing with some First Amendment rights issues as we kind of go through this process. Now, I'm going to meet with each member that's associated with the group. It's as if I have to take over the investigation and meet with each member to kind of determine who's going to be that one who initially posted the information. After finding out who posted that information, that's when we're going to kind of get into the why. Why did you post it? What is your feelings? What's going on? Did you have a plan for carrying out, how you were going to make Miss Tate disappear? What was the context in that is going to be our first thing that we need to find out. And then if it's deemed that it's freedom of speech and it was no actual threat, no true threat, then we're going to go ahead and we'll skip back down to where we're just going to bring in the parents. We're going to bring in the student, and we have to discuss that issue. Why does the student feel this way? How do the parents feel? What's happening in the school to make the student feel that way? Kind of determining those root causes. If it's deemed a true threat, this has already been turned over to law enforcement. SRO, law enforcement, they're taking it. They're dealing with it. It is now out of our hands. Now, when we're talking about our number 6 here, discipline, in terms of the threat, if it's deemed true threat, it's already out of our hands. If it's part of free speech, that's part of kind of our realm, if you will, where we're going to have to determine, was there malicious content within that? And we're going to have to kind of go through the district policy and see what's going to happen based on that. I would assume, based on just kind of my personal experience, that the district policy, if it's free speech, it's free speech. That's kind of out of our hand to an extent. Things like this, these would not be pursued as disciplinary actions. That's where that, not necessarily that we're going to let it off free and clear, but that's where that parent conference is going to need to come in, and we're going to really need to find out kind of why this happened versus punishing the student for exercising their First Amendment rights. And then at the end here, no matter what happens, we're going to debrief with Miss Tate. We're going to tell her what happened, tell her kind of our findings on the whole situation, on the whole matter, and we're going to either explain, hey, we sat down, we talked with the parent, talked with the student, here are their concerns, here are my concerns, or law enforcement came in, they said, you need to file a report, you need to go in and make sure whatever paperwork she needs to fill out for that, making sure that she does what she needs to do to protect herself legally. So that would kind of be, that conversation would go one of two ways, but it definitely would happen. In terms of Miss Tate's actual classroom and classroom management and teaching and instruction there, we're going to assign a mentor teacher. She should have already had one, being that this is only her second year. However, she evidently does not. So we're going to assign her a mentor teacher, preferably a science teacher. Also, we're going to create an improvement plan. We're going to have listed out steps that are going to lead towards a measurable goal. And we're going to make some kind of timeline of when each one of those steps need to occur. After we all get through that, and we have Ms. Tate's input, we have the mentoring teacher as well as my own input, then we're going to have periodic check-ins. That's where our timeline is going to come in, and we're going to meet, if it's bi-weekly, it wouldn't be bi-weekly, but if it's every other week, maybe it's, once a month, whatever the case may be, whenever we decide that needs to happen, that's when we would go in and have those check-ins. During those check-ins, we're going to review and revise the plan, kind of tweak it, especially at the beginning of this, to kind of see where she's at, where she needs to be, how are we going to get there. And then at the end of the year, we're going to kind of bring this all together, and we're going to determine what type of actions need to happen. Do we need to continue on with the plan? Do we need to adjust the plan? Is she knocking it out of the park and the plan needs to go away? Is she not putting forth any effort at all, and is she not making any growth? And at that point, maybe we're discussing, bringing in a new teacher possibly. Throughout all this, we're going to make sure that we document everything. And then when we're talking about what's best for students, safety, first and foremost. Safety for staff members, safety for the school, safety for the students. And we're going to validate those concerns of our staff when they occur. In our news, we always hear about people, I always thought there was something a little bit off about that guy, and then nothing is ever followed up with. So we're not going to allow that to happen in our school. Second here, we're going to make sure that the students are treated fairly, that, practicing the innocent until proven guilty. We're not going to, even though William Hall has been accused, that's not going to be the guy that I call in first. It's going to be, to the best of my ability, removing my own bias, removing Miss Tate's bias against any of these students. And then our third part here, we're going to develop Miss Tate's skills as a teacher, her ability to build relationships, the way her classroom is structured, as well as her classroom instruction. Now, our resolution, if we have a true threat, we've already stated we're going to bring in law enforcement, the legal proceedings, that's all going to be taken care of by the courts. If it's protected First Amendment speech, we're going to bring Ms. Tate in, talk about it, discuss about her concerns, and we're going to talk about those expectations for improvement as well as our strategies to do so. And then we're going to meet with the students and parents like I talked about earlier and really go after those root causes. As I'm working through this, the things that I thought were don't disregard the teacher's feelings. Don't blow it off, essentially. Make sure that I fairly investigate the possible students. Make sure that I don't have my own biases. Oh, here's a kid that's been written up 15 times. Make sure that I don't discount anybody. Oh, they're a straight A student. It couldn't have been them. So really making sure that I fairly investigate everybody here. Making sure that the application of the First Amendment is accurate. Making sure that if it is deemed as a true threat, boom, straight to law enforcement. If it is First Amendment protected speech, then it's going to be something, it's going to be an entirely different situation, entirely different conversation that needs to be had. And then fourth, I by no means am a lawyer. I would need legal assistance on either one of these issues because, that would be why I am kicking this up to the district. This is why I'm, informing them, hey, can you guys, what's our process for going through this? What I felt, I'm kind of torn between wanting to support the teacher, wanting to validate their concerns, and while at the same time thinking that the threat is not credible. Just because something gets posted on Facebook doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And I realize that the perception of that can be very different depending on whether you're involved in that conversation or not. But that's really where I felt torn.